Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about Sarah Sutton's book, What Are Friends For? This book follows Remy and Elijah, who have been best friends since the third grade. They live across the street from each other, they do everything together. The book opens up with them going clothes shopping at the mall, and they end up in, as Remy likes to call it, the panty section, where she's picking out underwear, and Elijah knows her bra size, which kind of funny. She laughs it off. Ha ha ha. They've been best friends forever. It's revealed that Elijah has a girlfriend, Savannah, and that Savannah probably wouldn't like him being in the panty section with Remy. They go get ice cream. It's cold out, but Elijah likes ice cream all times of the year. So it's kind of a thing they do. So they go get ice cream, and Remy is trying to talk Elijah into going to this party that one of their classmates is throwing, and Elijah kind of hems and haws because, Savannah's going to be coming over and maybe. And Remy's asking him because Elijah's going to be her ride. Well, she goes over to his house that night to see if he can come, and Savannah's there. It's super awkward. Elijah's been having some family problems. His brother was arrested for armed robbery. And so his family's been dealing with that. His mom has kind of basically ghosted everybody in her life, including Remy's mom. And so it just kind of, it's a weird, very awkward atmosphere. And so Remy's just like, okay, well, I'm just going to go by everybody. Like, as she gets like glared at over Elijah's shoulder by Savannah, right? So she gets to the party. Her best girlfriend, Eloise, is there. And she kind of, and then she runs into her crush, Jeremy. And Remy's been crushing on Jeremy for a while. They've been flirting back and forth. And so she decides, Jeremy offers to play a kissing game with her. And it's basically, I don't exactly remember the name of the game, but it's basically where you get blindfolded, you go into a closet, and you make out with your crush. Okay, cool. So Eloise hooks it up, takes Remy to the bedroom with the closet, puts the blindfold on her, sticks her in the closet, and Remy starts making out with this guy. Your first clue that something is wrong is when she touches his waist, he's wearing jeans. Well, Jeremy wasn't wearing jeans. Jeremy was wearing basketball shorts. So it's like you all of a sudden are kind of like, wait a minute, Remy, there's something wrong here. This is not the right person. And then it moves up to where she touches his narrow shoulders. When you get your first description of Jeremy, you're thinking he's into sports, he's athletic, he's got these big broad shoulders, and these hips that fill out his basketball shorts very nicely. You're not thinking of a guy with narrow shoulders and jeans, and it's all kind of super awkward. And then she figures it out. She smells something triggers her mind, and she realizes that this is not Jeremy, this is Elijah. And she freaks, smacks her head on the shelf, scrambles out of the closet, manages to make it into the bathroom where she pukes and passes out because she gave herself a concussion from hitting her head so hard. Now she's freaking out. She freaks out all weekend. Her mom takes her phone away from her, not because she got in trouble. Her mom doesn't even know she was at a party. Her mom thinks she fell going up Elijah's stairs at his house. And so she takes her phone away because, screen time is going to strain your eyes. Not allowed to watch a whole lot of TV. Basically has her wrapped up in a cocoon on the couch. And it's kind of one of those things where she's just like freaking out all weekend because who else would Elijah think he'd been kissing? Like, I mean, yes, he probably at first thought it was Savannah, but the minute that he realizes that Remy herself had hit her head at the party, he'll put two and two together and realize he was kissing Remy. And as weirded out and disgusted as she was when she first realized it was Elijah, she can't help but admit it's the best kiss of her life. She loved every minute of it, and she can't stop thinking about doing it again. So then, come to find out, once she actually gets to talk to Elijah, he doesn't know it's her. Eloise told him she fell at the party, but didn't mention how she fell at the party because Eloise didn't know at first that it was Elijah that was in the room with her. She thought it was Jeremy. And Savannah told Elijah that she too had hit her head at the party. And so then Elijah's over here going, oh, well, it was Savannah in the room with me because he was still blindfolded. And she's the one that hit her head. And isn't it hilarious that you and Savannah both hit your head at the party? Blah, 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 right? And so super awkward. And she keeps having these feelings, these thoughts and these feelings for someone who, up until she had kissed him in the closet, was her best friend. She never would have thought about him like that, right? Then, on top of that, and this is even better, on top of that, she turns around and tries to date Jeremy. Like, Jeremy shows up, and Jeremy brings her homework that she missed. And he's all like, oh, well, you know, Rem, I just was hoping that we could get, you know, have a date since you ditched me in the closet and never showed up. I was in my bedroom closet. Louise took her to the guest closet, which is where the confusion happened. And he was like, and so I would just really, you know, I want to try and have a date. So she agrees, even though now anytime she's near Jeremy, the butterflies and the feelings and everything that she had been feeling for him, gone completely. Nada, don't exist. Not there. It's like her kiss with Elijah turned off whatever switch of attraction she'd had to Jeremy. Completely gone. Okay, fine. Remy's cool with that. She decides to go on a date with him, and he's super weird about his car. Now, backtrack and realize that at one point, Remy is behind on a class project. There's a paper mache project that was due. She was out with the concussion, the date was due, and then she still put off getting it done. The teacher pulled her aside. She was going to flunk the class, and for whatever reason, in this area that the book takes place in, fine arts is a required credit to graduate. That's news to me. It was not a thing for me in high school. So that's super awkward because not everybody's an artist. Like, that's kind of dumb. That's one way to tank a really, you know, non-creative person's GPA, just saying. And school technicalities aside, the teacher gives Remy a deal. First off, she accuses her of cheating because Elijah turned in her paper mache project for her. Well, no. Elijah turned in his paper mache project, told the teacher that it was Remy's, and then turned in a really crappy bowl as his project. And Remy was just like, dude, what were you thinking? Why didn't you switch them? Why didn't you turn in the crappy bowl for me and the really good one for you? And then she wouldn't have thought anything. But I digress. Like, Elijah wasn't thinking straight. He thought he was helping her. He was worried. He was being sweet. And she kind of freaked out. Like, she was just like, great, I'm going to fail. And the teacher was like, the final project is worth 2%. And then if you cut out and glitterize these 150 snowflakes for the snowflake dance next week, I'll give you another 2% extra credit. That'll bring your grade to a D. You can graduate. Done. So throughout the book, poor Remy spends and the teacher tells her she can't ask for help. Can't ask for help, can't get any, you know, and the way it's worded, the teacher specifically says you can't ask anyone for help. Well, Elijah comes over and offers to help. Eloise supervises. Her mom helps. Her dad and her stepmom help her when she goes to her dad's for the weekend, gets to see her little baby sister. And so it's just kind of one of these things where she wasn't supposed to get help, but everybody kind of pitches in a little bit and sees how hard she's working. No one realizing that she's doing it because she's failing. Like, she didn't tell anybody, not even her mom. She was like, oh, mom will find out when the report cards come out, and I'm just not going to say anything. Like, super stressing out. Then this turns into, so her date with Jeremy, super awkward. Dude's totally in love with his car. He, like, talks about his car, and then he talks about himself, and he talks about sports, and he just talks. Like, they go to get food, and she's still not feeling 100%. Like, she's still not feeling good. And so the diner they go to, she usually only goes there for breakfast. Like, it's a brunch thing for her and Elijah. Her dad had started it, and then when he moved away, Elijah and her continued it. And so it's really weird to be there not at brunch. She doesn't know what their, like, dinner menu options are. She gets something. She doesn't eat a whole lot. And Jeremy just talks and talks and talks. And he doesn't listen when she responds. Like, he keeps calling Elijah Eli. And only Remy's allowed to call him that. And she says that like 3 or 4 times. That, you know, oh, only I can call him Eli. And, oh, okay, yeah. And then he keeps going and going and he doesn't. And she was like, there's no way for me to talk, interject. He's all about sports. She's not into sports. Like, it's just one of those things where, you know, the person is great from afar, but once you actually get with them, it completely turns out bad, right? So, but and it's even more awkward because, like, Elijah found out they were going on a date, and so he basically pulled Jeremy aside and told him that he better treat her like a princess and be on his best behavior. So Jeremy was acting super un-Jeremy like he was like opening doors for her and doing things that he's giving her his jacket, which he seemed really awkward about. And then at the end of the date, he asked for the jacket back, which was even more awkward. And when he finally spilled his guts and said, oh yeah, Elijah told me that I need to treat you a certain way. And it's just so hard to do that, like to have to think of everything. And she's like, it's hard to be a decent person on a date. Like, that's so weird. He also left him and Savannah dated at one point, which kind of interesting. And it's kind of interesting because she tends to talk about Elijah a lot, and Jeremy tends to talk about Savannah a lot. And so then Elijah and Jeremy and Savannah all come up with this, oh, they're going to go on a double date, like, later on in the week. So they go on a double date together. They go get ice cream. And Savannah and Jeremy think it's weird, and Jeremy doesn't really get into ice cream, so he gets, like, a slushie. And you can see it's kind of weird because Elijah and Remy are, like, really into their thing, like, talking to each other and joking around and making jokes. And Savannah's looking all kind of awkward. And when they showed up to the date, like, there was a lot of tension there. And originally Jeremy was going to pick up Savannah because she lived near him, and Elijah was going to pick up Remy because they lived near together. But when Remy went to get in the car, Savannah was already there. And so that part was super awkward because now it's like there was a tension in the car. She really didn't know what was going on. And then Jeremy brought up Elijah's brother Terry, which made it even more awkward. And Remy jumped to Elijah's defense, and things just kind of spiraled from there. Jeremy took Savannah home. Elijah took Remy home. And when Remy said something, because Elijah lets everybody else talk about Terry except her. When she tries to talk about Terry, he snaps her head. Like, he just snaps at her. And she called him out on it, and he told her that he thought she was a bad influence. And that the reason that Terry did what he did was because he was around bad people of bad influence, and basically accused Remy of being like those people. And she was just floored because they've been friends forever. Like, why would that, where are these feelings coming from? And he wouldn't talk to her. He called her the night that Terry was arrested and asked her to come over, but he wouldn't say anything, and he wouldn't talk to her. And it was just all bubbling up. It was just filling her with confusion. So at this point too, the teacher lets her stay over through lunch one day that week to work on her sculpture project for that other 2% that she needed. And there is a day during the week where Savannah shows up late for lunch and says, oh, the art teacher's looking for you, yada yada. So Remy, thinking, great, what do I do now? Like, she gets up, she lets the monitor know that she's going to the teacher's classroom, gets there, and the teacher's not there. Like, her computer is shut down, like, she's obviously at lunch. And so Remy's a little confused, but she's like, okay, well, no big deal, whatever, I'll ask her in class. And then when class rolls around, the teacher doesn't seem like she needs to talk to her, so Remy doesn't say anything. She just kind of leaves it. She's like, oh, well, maybe she figured it out, she doesn't need my help. You know, what she would need Remy's help on, I don't know. So then Remy has another date with Jeremy. She got grounded. Her and her mom got into a really, really awful fight. She felt suffocated and coddled by her mom, and she basically called her out on it. And her mom was hurt, and very obviously and very understandably hurt by the things that Remy said. And so her mom took her phone away, took her, grounded her, except she was still supposed to go to her dad's. And Jeremy shows up at the house. Well, apparently earlier in the day, he had asked her to go on a date with him. She had said yes, not really paying attention because, again, she was watching Elijah. And so he showed up, and she was like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have my phone, I'm grounded. I'm supposed to go to my dad's tonight. And he was like, well, we can hit the movie and then I'll drive you to your dad's, like, no big deal. So she leaves a note for her mom telling her that she's having a friend take her to her dad's, which, again, how are you supposed to build any trust with your mom if you're lying to her like that? Like, you're grounded and you're still going to a movie. My dad would have flipped his poop on me, like, if I had done that. That's ridiculous. This girl, holy cow. So they go to the movie. It's an action movie. It's not her favorite, but it's not awful. Jeremy doesn't talk during it, which of course makes it not so terrible. And then they end up driving to her dad's. Well, Jeremy pulls over on the side of the road because he wants to do a little bit of makeout. Kisses her and then pulls away and was like, oh, well, Elijah was right. Because earlier Elijah had told him that he didn't think she was into him anymore. And she, of course, got after Elijah for butting into her relationship and for putting his nose where it didn't belong. And Jeremy was like, no, Elijah was right. He said, I'm not feeling it. You're not feeling it, are you? And she was like, no, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, it's okay. We had to try. That's what dating is for. He's pretty cool about it. Well, he goes to drive off and slides on the ice, and the car ends up in the ditch, and she ends up banging her head. So now what do? Well, Elijah has a truck. So she has Jeremy call Elijah, and when Elijah answers, he's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm with Savannah, blah, blah. And Jeremy goes, dude, look, I need you to come pull me out. And he asked Remy where they are. She tells him. He was like, yeah, I was taking Rem to her dad's. I'll be there. He drops everything to come and get her. And when he shows up, immediately goes to Remy's side of the car, opens it up, gets her out, makes sure she's okay. Wants to take her to the hospital. She tells him no, she's fine. He actually ends up leaving Jeremy on the side of the road and not helping him pull his car out because he was so worried about Remy instead, and drives her to her dad's. And then her dad takes her to the hospital, and the doctor's like, oh no, she's fine, but it's always good to double check. You did the right thing by bringing her in. And then her and her dad have a heart-to-heart kind of talk. And you can tell that while Remy loves her mom, and her mom is who she lives with, 75% of the time, she's definitely a daddy's girl. And it's a daddy's girl thing. We recognize it. And her dad, first off, tells her that the way she spoke to her mom and how she acted was wrong, and that even though he doesn't live in that house anymore, he can discipline her for the way she acts in that house, and that she is not to talk to her mother like that. And Remy says, I know I made a mistake, and I don't know how to fix it. And so he tells her she has to apologize. She has to understand that this is her mom's love language, and this is the way she is. And then Remy starts asking him about his different feelings for her mom and her stepmom. And he tells her that it's not that he didn't love her mom anymore. It's just that they had grown apart. And with her stepmom, she ended up becoming the person that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. And she was his saving grace. And she was like, well, how did you know? And he was like, he said, I woke up and I couldn't think of anyone else that I'd rather be with than her. And so that kind of turns her to, okay, so she's thinking about Elijah all the time. Every time she wakes up, she thinks about Elijah. He may be her Clarabelle. And so she gets home after the weekend, and her mom sits, she sees her mom and she apologizes, and they hug, and they come to terms with it. Of course, she ends up accidentally spilling the fact that she got hurt at a party and not at Elijah's house. But that kind of gets slid past because of them, reconciling. Then she gets to school on Monday and gets called into the principal's office. And in the principal's office, the art teacher and the principal accuse her of cheating. The art teacher says that on Friday, when she got back from lunch, someone had gone in and changed her grade from a 56 to a 72, and they assume it was her and can't believe it. Like, how did she not know? Yada, yada, yada. That they wouldn't have picked it out. Like, how do you not realize that we wouldn't have noticed? That's such a huge grade jump. And she, well, I guess this is further along. This is Friday. So went the whole week, her no longer dating Jeremy. Savannah thinks she's a threat. Eloise figures out that it was Elijah she kissed and not Jeremy, and then is like, well, you should tell Elijah. No, Elijah has a lot that he's dealing with. Her and Elijah end up making out in his truck, because he tells her that him and Savannah fight a lot, and it's mostly about Remy. And he had apologized for saying what he did, well, because he had an art show. So he had entered a art contest for the county, wouldn't tell anybody what his project was, and when Remy went to see it, it ended up being Harmony. He had done a paper mache of her baby sister taking her first step, and Savannah was nowhere to be found. He was like, yeah, Savannah didn't come, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Like, I don't care if you don't like what your significant other is doing, if you don't find it interesting. Savannah put down his art all the time. It was so frustrating to read her talk about someone she was supposed to care about like this. And he ended up winning, and then he drove Remy home, and they parked in his driveway, and that's when it kind of like came out that him and Savannah were fighting all the time, and it was about Remy. And then him and Remy started kissing, and she got mad at him because he was basically using her to make himself feel better after having a fight with Savannah, and she was angry, and she got out of the truck. She did not want to talk to him. Then she gets to school on Friday, gets accused of cheating, asks the art teacher, why would I have made all these stupid snowflakes if I was just going to change my grade to a 72? And the art teacher wouldn't even look at her. It was awful. She gets home and she's in tears and she, of course, tells him, well, good luck having a snowflake dance without any snowflakes. And she gets home and she's in tears because she didn't do it. Her mom had stayed up all night the night before, helping her finish. And she's gonna have to repeat senior year. Like, there was nothing she could do. And her mom was angry, not at her, at the school. Her mom called the school and yelled at the school, called her dad. Her dad promised he would come in on Monday with them and they would talk. There was going to be a hearing. But as the day progressed into Saturday, things kind of came to a turn for Remy. And she started to realize that even if she started putting a couple of things together. Savannah coming back from lunch late, telling her the teacher wanted to see her going to the teacher's classroom, the teacher not being there. She kind of put some pieces together, figured out what was really going on. She packaged up all the snowflakes and took them into school because she wasn't going to use them anyways, gave them to the teacher, and then told the teacher, she said, I wouldn't have done it. She was like, I have had absolutely no reason to do it because you had given me this chance. And then she saw Savannah as she was leaving and basically called Savannah out. And Savannah just looked at her like, oh my gosh, are you going to tell on me? And she was like, no, because that would hurt Elijah and I care about Elijah. She was like, but I want you to know that I know. And then Elijah comes to see her. Like, things just kind of fall into place. Him and Savannah broke up. He had figured out that Remy was the girl in the closet when he went to get her out of Jeremy's car. She had been wearing the same perfume because Jeremy had liked it, and Elijah had smelled it and realized that the girl he kissed in the closet who had hit her head had been Remy. And he was like, it's the best kiss I ever had. I couldn't get it out of my head. And he was like, and Savannah and I just we're not connecting. Savannah wanted to be with somebody to be with somebody. She didn't want to be with Elijah for Elijah. And as they talked more, he started talking to her about Terry, his brother, and he didn't mean the things he said about her being a bad influence. And his problem with Terry was that, he looked up to Terry and he admired Terry, and he worried that, if Terry had better influences. And then come to find out, because there had been a unanimous phone call that is why Terry and his buddies got caught. Terry made the phone call. So Terry knew what he was doing was wrong and he tried to fix it. And that made Elijah feel a little bit better. That helped ease some of his anger. His mom had really been struggling. She had called Remy's dad asking if, the deal he got was fair. He got like 8 months to a year or something in jail, and then some probation time after that. And her dad had to assure, Elijah's mom, no, the deal was fair. He could have gotten a lot worse because they had a BB gun with him, could have been armed robbery. And so she, Remy had kind of called out his mom because Elijah seemed to be kind of falling to the wayside for his mom while she focused so much energy on Terry. And so she kind of called his mom out one morning and or one afternoon, and then Saturday morning she went out and his mom was going out to the mailbox and she fell, and Remy went over to help her and she was laughing and, oh, I'm so sorry for the way I've acted. Would you think your mom would mind if we came over tomorrow for lunch and we brought food with us? And yeah, no, that mom would love that. She's missed you, kind of thing. And things kind of, fell back together. And Remy and Elijah kind of fell into where they belonged with each other. And then Monday morning rolled around and she had to go to the principal's office with her parents. And when she got there, it was super weird. Like, they were super nice to her. They called her in. Savannah was there crying and the teacher was apologizing, and Savannah admitted her culpability. And it was just one of those things where it just kind of worked out. Oh, well, you finished your sculpture project and you got the snowflakes done, so you're passing, with a D, not the greatest, and it's gonna hurt your GPA, but you're passing. You're gonna get to graduate this year. And so then when Savannah leaves, Remy follows her and tells her that she understands and that she's sorry for stealing her boyfriend, because that's like the lowest of the low things that you can do. And Savannah, apologizes for the way she acted, and then Remy's like, hey, you want to go shopping? And so kind of building a friendship that they should have initially have built anyways. I mean, when you date a guy and he has a friend who is his best friend and it's a girl, you're supposed to try to befriend that girl, because she's going to be able to tell you all the ins and outs of this guy that you apparently like because you're dating him. So it kind of all falls into place with her and Elijah, and it's just so cute. And the epilogue ends with Elijah getting ready to go visit Terry for the first time in prison, and he's nervous, but Remy's there with him, and they're just so cute together. And it's like, yes, this is what it was supposed to be. And it's just such a heartwarming story. And if you ever have a chance, you want such a feel-good romantic story, this is the story for you. What Are Friends For? Happy reading!